In the last tutorial, I showed you how to create a category plot, also called a bar graph. In this tutorial, we'll explore various category plot options. Right now, the category plot shows 2 bars for each day of the week. Sometimes it's useful to display the data as 2 bars stacked on top one another, instead of 2 separate bars. To do this, double-click on one of the bars and select the topmost trace in the list if it's not already selected. From the Grouping pop-up menu, choose Stack on Next, then click the Do It button. Notice how the left bar in each group is now stacked on top of the right bar. Choose the Graph Reorder Traces menu item. Reverse the order of the items in the list by dragging the top item down, and then click the Do It button. Notice that the bars are no longer stacked, and that the red bars, which used to be on the left, are now on the right. The reason the bars are not stacked is that the trace we set to Stack on Next mode is now the last trace, and there is no next trace. Double-click on a trace to bring up the Modify Trace Appearance dialog, and set the topmost trace to Stack on Next. Then click the Do It button. The category plot now looks like this. Let's add some additional data to the category plot. I'll select the table displaying the values of the waves used in this plot and create a new wave with some data values. Click the graph to bring it to the front and choose the Graph Append to Graph Category Plot menu item. From the Y-Waves list, select Wave 2 and click Do It. The new trace is appended to the graph after the previous 2. Because the second trace was in Stack on Next mode, the new trace is on the bottom of each set of 3 stacked bars. Bring up the Modify Trace Appearance dialog by double-clicking on a trace, and change the grouping mode of the middle trace to None. Now click the Do It button. The new bars are now to the right of a group of 2 stacked bars. You can create any combination of stacked and side-by-side bars. Notice that right now, the tick marks on the bottom axis lie between each category. Double-click on the bottom axis to bring up the Modify Axis dialog. The bottom axis is already selected because we double-clicked on the bottom axis. Click the Auto/Man Ticks tab and select the Tick in Center checkbox. Then click Do It. The tick marks are now in the center of each category. It's also easy to change the spacing between the bars within a category and between categories. Double-click on the bottom axis to bring up the Modify Axis dialog. Click the Axis tab and then change the value of bar gap to 0 and click Do It. Notice that the bars within a group are now touching. Bring up the Modify Axis dialog again and set the category gap to 50%. This shrinks the widths of the bars and increases the gap between bars of adjacent categories. So far, we've created a vertical category plot, but it's also easy to create a horizontal category plot. To do that, select the Graph Modify Graph menu item. In the Modify Graph dialog, check the Swap X and Y axes checkbox and then click the Do It button. This gives us a horizontal bar graph.